In this episode of Mitch and Mark at the Movies, we're going to talk about the Golden Globe Awards and the winners that were announced at the awards ceremony. And then we're going to review the film that won Best Musical Comedy at the Golden Globes, Emilia Perez. And we're going to go into depth on that. Stay tuned. Welcome to Mitch and Mark at the Movies, and we're back here for another show. How you doing, Mitch?
I'm doing great, Mark. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you
times
too.
In LA. It's a little biblical here.
Yes, it is. It's pretty crazy right now. And
I
feel for all the people out there.
Yeah, I would just like to take a moment and just send my prayers out to all the victims of the fires and to the first responders, because it's, I'm close enough to it. You get a real sense of what's happening. It's bad.
Yeah, no, and it's if you really think about it, between the people losing their homes and all the animals and the wildlife and all that, it's fairly devastating. But
and for those of us who grew up in Los Angeles, I mean, we're used to earthquakes and brush fires and all that stuff. I mean, I remember being at a summer camp when I was a kid in Laurel Canyon, and the whole canyon burned down. And that's when we lost the Houdini Mansion. Fortunately, my parents' home was spared. They were really grateful that we were at that summer camp when it happened. But, we've been through a lot of these things. This one's really bad. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's move on. We're going to talk. We want to thank everybody for the comments and suggestions on our previous shows. And we really appreciate the feedback. And we're trying to fine tune things and make things better.
Oh, guess what I did last night? You'll never guess. So I'm just going to tell you, I went to see A Complete Unknown for the second time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're probably wondering why I did that. I had promised a friend of mine that we would go to a screening of it, and I had RSVP'd, I don't know, in the middle of December. And then on Christmas, I was with friends that they wanted to go see it, so I know that's the first time I saw it. So, and I have to tell you, I kind of liked it better the second time. So, I mean, I still have the same problems with it, but it really, somebody sent me a text that said, I trashed the movie so bad that they wouldn't go see it. And that wasn't my intention. If you recall, I said it was infinitely entertaining, and it really is. But I still have the same problems with the dialogue, and I still think Timothée Chalamet was absolutely fantastic, but he was like a lazy pick. I mean, a film like this really, you audition 1,000 people and you look for this person who's just going to like miraculously play Bob Dylan. You don't just kind of go for a heartthrob. I mean, he had the talent to pull it off, but there was Dylan's music. It came from this place in his soul, and we could all sense it. And I could feel Timothée Chalamet on screen, kind of trying to really get to that place, and he didn't quite pull it off. So, but he was great. The film's great. You should definitely see it.
Now, the second time you saw it was in the theater, obviously, right? Was the first time screener that you watched? Or
No. The first time I saw it in a big ass, IMAX type, multiplex with a lot of people in cargo pants and flip flops and the full treatment, waiting in line and all that stuff. And the second time I went to a screening at the Dolby Theater in Burbank, which is amazing. It's not a big theater, but it's Dolby, so it's like the sound is like it's so insanely good. It's like nuts. It's like I tried to count the speakers. There's probably only a 250 seat theater. Just on the sides, there's 14 speakers. So, it's not counting the rears and what's behind the screen and God knows under your seat, but the sound is amazing. And
you know what I miss? You know what I miss from the theater experience? Do you remember when it was when the George Lucas sound or whatever? I forget what it was called.
Yeah, THX.
THX, where they would do this maestro going bump, and it would go, and they shut off the speakers before the movie started.
Yeah,
and I love that. They're always made you go like, wow.
Well, they still do that sometimes. I mean, Dolby has Atmos, and Atmos has they have a brilliant one of those things. It's like so they still do, but I know what you're saying. I mean, all of the I don't know if you know the backstory. I'll keep it really short, but the whole reason that THX happened is when Lucas started showing Star Wars, he noticed in every theater he went to. You know that story, Mark? Am I like just telling something?
No, go ahead.
Knows?
Go ahead.
I don't know if everybody knows this, but the sound as he went from theater to theater, checking the sound. Like it was really inconsistent. And they used to use these JBL, Voice of the Theater, these horns that they put behind the screen. Some of them, they would be broken. They'd be rattling. The screen, the sound would be unbalanced. So Lucas set out to create a standard for theaters so that his films would sound the same in every theater, which is where THX came from, which was named after his first film, THX 11, whatever it was, 1182.
It was a number, THX 182 or something like
that. Something like that. Yeah, it was an interesting film. It was actually started as a UCLA film school project.
Yeah.
But, so we don't hear much about THX anymore. But it's still out there. I mean, it's still a licensable sound standard. But he did standard. Lucas did standardize film sound.
That's right. Well, the other thing that happened this past weekend was the Golden Globe Awards, and this happens every year in January. And I wanted to just say about the Golden Globes is my favorite award show. If I'm going to have to watch an award show, I like the Golden Globes for two reasons. Because not only do they give out awards for movies, but they also give out awards for television. And so you get a lot of crossover with the celebrities that are there and the movie stars. And not only that, they're sitting at tables and they're drinking. So in the past, it's been very funny. Like they'll get a great comedian up there. Like this is Nikki Glaser, who was the comedian who was the host this year. And a lot of times, and a lot of times they'll take shots at the different people sitting in the audience, and hopefully they'll laugh at themselves. But I've always enjoyed the Golden Globes much more so than some of the other award shows. How about you?
How about me? Well, I'm a big fan of Nikki Glazer's for a couple of reasons. Anyway, mostly because she's just incredibly funny. She's her and Melissa McCarthy are probably the two funniest women on earth right now. So she's revitalized the show. I think she did it for the first time last year. I think she won an Emmy for her.
Actually, no, this is the first time she did this. She's done it. She did another award show. First time she done Golden Globe.
Oh, I thought she did it last year. Okay.
No, and she got great reviews, and I think they'll probably have her back because.
She made the show. I mean, I probably wouldn't have watched it except you and I are doing this. And Nikki Glaser was going to host, and she's so incredibly funny.
Yeah. And then, of course, they go over, they give out awards to some of the TV series that I really enjoyed. Shogun last year. That was my favorite show, like miniseries.
We should do a stream on Shogun.
Oh, absolutely. It's my favorite book of all time. I've read it cover to cover like 5 or 6 times. And it's 1,200 page book. Oh, I love the book.
Yeah, it's a big like James Clavell.
Clavell, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you remember the original one with Richard Chamberlain?
Absolutely. That's how I fell in love with it. Listen, I can tell you a quick funny story about that. I was in Clearwater at the time working at the Fort Harrison Hotel, and it was 1980 when that came out. And the Hourglass restaurant, which you'll probably remember, Mitch, was the sort of high-end restaurant in the Fort Harrison. Then anyway, we had to bring a television in during dinner time to show it in the evening because it came out like on a nightly basis for, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks to show it because everybody wanted to see the Shogun TV series. So I remember it very well.
It was, it was right around the same time. The book and that original series, especially the book, was my entry into beginning to learn about the history of Japanese culture. So we should talk about that more later sometime and contrast and compare the way the white guy shows up in Japan in that film, which is at the beginning of they call him Toranaga, the shogun. He was the last shogun in Japan. His name was actually Tokugawa. And I don't know why they changed it. But you have this guy, I think he was Portuguese. No, he was British. What was he? He was British.
He was British. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was kind of anti-Portuguese. He shows up, the white guy shows up at the beginning of Tokugawa's regime, which is what Shogun is about. And then in The Last Samurai, Tom Cruise shows up at the end of that dynasty. Like that was the end of the dynasty. So those films, in a way, they kind of bookend one another. But yeah, it's a fascinating culture, and it's it was really that book that kind of launched me into my interest in Japanese culture, and then which turned into an interest in Japanese cinema, which dislodged me from art school and into film school. So Yeah, I feel it's when I watched it. What's his name? The actor, the Japanese actor who won best.
Oh, Toshiro. Oh, last night you mean?
Yeah, less.
Or Tish,
No,
do
I
you mean
can't think of his
Toshiro
name.
Mifune?
No, not
Toshiro Mifune was in the original.
Mifune.
Yeah,
No, but no, the guy who played the Shogun in this series, he's a
yeah.
very noted Japanese actor. He's done some American films. He was in Sunshine. He was
Yeah.
in. He also, if you do like Japanese historical films, he starred maybe 10 years ago in one of my favorite samurai films called Twilight Samurai, which is not. We'll get into this later, but the whole traditional historical Japanese films follow it. They're called Jedi Gekai is the name of the genre, which is I think where Lucas got the word Jedi because it's Jedi Gekai, and then the sword play intense films are called Chanbara. And so the Twilight Samurai is a Jedi Gekai film. It's not a swordplay film. There's a little swordplay, but it's a human drama as opposed to about fighting. So yeah, the Shogun. I was so thrilled. I mean, I loved the new one. Was just that show was
Yeah,
unbelievable.
and I know we're talking a lot about this, but Anna Sawai, who played the the lead character, she was amazing in it too.
Yeah, she
And
plays the female lead.
female lead, and it was great. So, but anyway, we'll cover that in a future show. The other thing that they did that you wanted to talk about at the Golden Globes this year is they had Vin Diesel come out and present a new category about best blockbuster movie. What did you think?
Yeah, I couldn't. I kind of fell over in my chair. I was just like palm to face, like you've got to be kidding. Okay, so nobody makes those kinds of movies to win awards. That's not why they make them. Those movies rarely, if ever, do anything to advance the art form. And so I was really shocked that they gave an award to the film that had the longest lines internationally. Okay, because it's essentially what that is. Who had the longest lines? Who made the most money? I mean, yeah, if it wasn't for that, Wicked wouldn't have won anything. And I don't know that Wicked there was a line that I heard the second time I saw I'm Not There, not I'm Not There, but a Complete Unknown. And the line was that the dastardly fellow who was the head of the Newport Folk Festival, who referred to Peter, Paul, and Mary as a confection. And I thought, there was something really perfect about that description for the time, because they were the first ones who recorded Blowing in the Wind. So at least they got mentioned, but I don't think they should have been mentioned so harshly. But the idea of referring to something as a confection, I love that. I have to tell you, Wicked is a confection. It's fucking dessert. Okay, it's not a meal that's going to sustain you, but it's a great, hopeful, energetic, eye candy roller coaster ride. But at the end of the day, it's cotton candy as opposed to something really nourishing. So.
What I was going to say is that, the reason they do that is obviously they're trying to get more viewership, because a lot of these films that are up for awards, that win these awards at the Golden Globes, nobody's seen them yet. Or if they have, very few people have seen them. And so, you're trying to attract a TV audience of people who go like, well, where's my Avengers movie, or where's my Vin Diesel movie, or whatever. So they decided, well, we'll just create a category. And the Oscars get kind of the same thing by expanding the number of Best Picture nominees to 10 from when they used to do, I think, 4 or 5. And that's so that they could include some of these bigger movies.
Yeah, participation trophy.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, thanks to Harvey Weinstein, the Oscars have become like a cash race. Like Harvey Weinstein did for film marketing what I can't remember the name of it, but when the Supreme Court decided that money was First Amendment speech, like you should be able to. The Harvey Weinstein did the same thing, because he's the reason that my mic is just completely collapsed. He's the reason we get all these screeners, because he marketed a little film called Shakespeare in Love to the point where it beat, Saving Private Ryan, which shocked everybody. Right. So there's a lot of this marketing and politics that's mixed up with it. It's unfortunate. The awards originally were just peers getting together and patting each other on the back, which is great. And often there is some contingent that holds the line and says, no, we're going to give awards to films because they really did something to advance the art form. and
Mhm.
that's not making a lot of money. That's just making a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, the film that we're going to review today it was a winner at the Golden Globes, and
Yeah.
it's available on Netflix. You can stream it right now, and it's called Emilia Perez. Okay, and this film was directed by a guy named Jacques Audiard, and he's also the writer. He wrote it. He's from France. He speaks French. He doesn't speak English. This movie it's in Spanish. The whole thing is done in Spanish, and so if you want to watch it, you have to read the English subtitles. But for me, I'm getting old enough now that a lot of times, even on like the British films, I'll put up the subtitles because I don't understand what the heck they're even saying. But anyway, this film, there he is right there, Jacques Audiard. I know I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but anyway, he's the writer and director of the film, and then it stars Zoe Saldana. And she's actually more of a supporting role. She's not the main character in it, but she's kind of is. But anyway,
Well,
Zoe
yeah,
Saldana. And then let me. I'll go through the other cast. And then we've
sure.
got Carla Sofia Gascon. Okay. And then you've got Selena Gomez, and they're the three main characters in this movie, Emilia Perez. And Mitch, why don't you go ahead and tell people what you thought of this movie and what it's about?
So, yeah, when I mentioned earlier about giving awards to films that may have advanced the art form, and that sometimes there's enough adults in the room to see that happens, this is a case of that, because this is a remarkable film, and I think it's an extremely important film. I mean, Zoe's Emilia Perez. Let me see. So Gascon, she plays the title character. The Zoe Saldana character is she's a catalyst. She is like the main catalyst of the film. And then Selena Gomez is sort of like, she's like the character that's suspended between forces, the one that really is put in the most confusing position of anybody. And then there's a bunch of other characters too, but it's hard to talk about this film without giving spoilers, because there is a very important aspect of human relationships and actions that characters go through that you kind of best discover during the film. But ultimately, it is a film about a person making a transition in terms of their gender. So this is a real important, and let's just, Gascon, who is a trans actor, she is the most successful trans actor ever. And when you look at this film, and she's going to win other awards, I mean, her performance is so amazing. And don't think for a second that this is some kind of DEI pick, or this is like, Trump got elected, and now we live in this world where, people with disabilities, people that are trans, people, LGBTQIA people, immigrants, all these people are less safe in the world. So, maybe as artists, we can get together and try to make them safer. Her getting these awards, while it is supportive of those things, it is 100% on merit. It is one of the most amazing performances that I have ever seen. And we're applauding her because she's also, a trans actor. So, and this is exciting because I think it opens the door to more of these stories of a broader, covering a broader spectrum of human experience, become relevant and become important. So without really giving the plot twist of the thing away, I myself, I'm very much in of the mind that this is a really important film, but it's also just a really good film. It's like, I can't recommend it enough. I mean, it's probably going to be nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah. Now, just to give a little bit of the setting without giving anything away, this film takes place in Mexico, okay, and they're with the drug cartels in Mexico, and the killings and the brutality that is associated with those cartels is definitely portrayed in it. But what's interesting about this film as well is that the director and writer, it's not only just a drama, it's a musical. All of a sudden, Zoe Saldana will just break into song, and all the characters around her, not a restaurant or whatever, they'll just all start singing and dancing together.
Yeah.
And the lyrics of the song are carrying the message of what they're trying to communicate in the film. And it's very effectively done. What did you think?
What did I think? Well, I think that I read some things, or I listened to read an interview with Arnaud, however you pronounce his name. I should have looked that up before we started. He had originally written this as an opera in 4 parts, and when I thought about that, it very much felt like material that had been, had been adapted from an opera. Uh, a lot of operas have a kind of a tragic, there's a lot of tragic operas, a Madame Butterfly, and then there's some light opera, musicals like, Miss Saigon, and I'm sure I could think of more. They're not, all musicals are not like, Pirates of Penzance or whatever, or so it felt very operatic, and I really loved that. Like, it had the intensity of these sort of human dramatic circumstances that take place in operas, and it's definitely falls in the tragic. It's kind of a tragedy and a little bit more of a melodrama, but it's not a feel good thing, but it's you're not going to walk away going, geez, I feel depressed. I understand. You're going to be astonished by the story, I think. And I thought, I mean, my only criticism of the film, and this is just weird, I'm sure if I saw it again, I would cancel this, but the first number I thought was weak. The first dance number is Zoe Saldana, and she's outside in like maybe a marketplace or something, a bazaar, and she starts to do these dance moves, and she starts singing, and she's really like an opera. She's reaching into a lower level of her emotional life and bringing this out to us, because that's what it feels like in an opera. It feels like that person is sharing their most inner, and in musicals as well, because music is so emotional. So she does this, and then she starts to do her dance moves, and then the other participants, just the pedestrians, the bystanders, start dancing with her. And it's one continuous tracking shot moving back, and it's shot with a telephoto lens. So it's very claustrophobic. It's outside, but there's no long shot. There's no wide shot. There's no establishing shot. There's no big sweeping crane shot of all the people dancing. They keep this thing very tight and claustrophobic. And I the only thing I could connect that with is they just didn't have a lot of money. It was a low budget film. And so I think on that first number, the constraints that they were under kind of show a little bit. And I was a little disappointed, like wondering if this is going to work. But by the second number, it worked so brilliantly. And then all of the rest of them, it almost defies the label of musical. But, it's probably going to win an Academy Award for Best Original Song. So.
Yeah. I was going to say, I know what you're talking about on that first musical number. I just wanted to say a couple things about that I learned about the film after seeing it, is that the director, originally they were going to shoot it in Mexico because the story takes place in Mexico, but he convinced the studio to be able to shoot it in France. The whole movie shot in France. And a lot of those scenes, like that first dance number, was shot interior in a studio because the director wanted to be able to control the circumstances. So maybe that's why it was a lot more close up and not big establishing shot. But yeah, they shot the whole thing in France. Yeah, and it's multilingual because he doesn't speak Spanish, and the whole film is in Spanish. And Zoe Saldana is American. She was born in the she was born in New Jersey, but her parents were from the Dominican Republic. But she was amazing. I mean, her background, before she ever became an actress, she was a dancer and ballet dancer in New York City, and of course that didn't go as far as she wanted. So then she turned to acting, and she's my celebrity crush these days. I mean, she's in everything. As a matter of fact, fun trivia fact, she's in the top 3 box office movies of all time.
Yeah, and half of that money was Mark going to see her over and over again. So.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, the top 3 movies of all time, box office wise, Avatar, which she was one of the main characters in that, the Avengers Endgame, and Avatar: The Way of Water. Those are the top 3 movies, and she's in all of them. And then she also then number 6, which was another Avengers movie. But she also was in the Guardians of the Galaxy and Star Trek and all that. And she also does small films too. And of course, right now people can see her in the TV series Lioness, and she's just an action. She just kicks.
Yeah, she's amazing. She really is like a force of nature.
But anyway, so she's in there, and so I really enjoyed that. The other musical number, like you mentioned, that I remember was done by Selena Gomez, right? And I was going to
Yeah,
show
that was great.
it
It was
here.
great.
Selena
Yeah.
Gomez, and of course her background is she started as a Disney kid, I think, right on the Disney
Yeah.
Channel, and
Yeah.
then became a teen music star, and now she's a billionaire between her cosmetic business and everything else. And of course, she stars on Only Murders in the Building, the Steve Martin short show that's on Hulu, and she did a great job in this as a supporting actress. What did you think of her
Yeah.
performance?
Oh, no, she's fantastic. She's absolutely incredible. Yeah, there's nothing. Everybody should go out and see this. You don't even have to go out. It's on Netflix. You can just watch it. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
looking film. When you mentioned that they shot it in French, so it's multilingual. But that's no criticism here, but that's kind of an American viewpoint because when Americans go abroad, the one question that they fear the most is how many languages do you speak? And I'll bet you most of the people, I bet you a lot of these people speak French, like
Right.
Zoe Saldana, and because they're
Well,
already
and yeah, Zoe
bilingual.
Saldana is actually multilingual. I heard
Yeah,
a
so
podcast because she not only speaks English and Spanish, but her husband's Italian. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
she speaks Italian and she speaks some French. And
yeah.
so
I'm
it's
sure that it's just we're very English centric, so we're like, well, they shot it in
exactly.
France. They must have had a lot of translators. No, a lot of people speak French.
Yeah.
So, especially in
Well,
film.
and then the Golden Globes, Zoe won Best Supporting Actress, Motion Picture, Golden
Yeah,
Globe, and
she
she was up
did.
against a lot of people,
She did.
and she
Yeah,
looked
it was great.
fabulous. And
Yeah.
then the movie itself, there's the whole cast and the directors and everything up there. They won. It won Best Foreign Film, and then it also won Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy in the Golden Globes because they consider it a musical, but it's a very dramatic film. I don't
Yeah, but it
consider
is
it
a
a
musical.
comedy.
It
Yeah.
absolutely fits into the category. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah, it's a great film. I think she
But one
also
other
won. She won Best Actress at the Cannes Film Festival, right?
Well, I was just going to say the other thing too is it debuted at the Cannes Film Festival. It won the jury prize winner, which I guess is they vote on their most favorite movie, and then it won Best Actress award for all the female leads. They all won. It wasn't just one of them. They couldn't decide,
Yeah,
and I think that's
yeah,
a first. I don't know if they've ever done that
yeah.
before.
It could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Anyway, I wanted.
she's Gascon. She is currently the most celebrated, award-winning trans actor of all time. So it's really, really exciting because it's, like I said before, it opens the door to more stories centering on these kinds of stories or stories featuring same-sex relationships. I saw one about two lesbians that I loved. I think it was Margaret Qualley. Well, this year, a film I can recommend very highly called Love Lies Burning, which is like an action shoot 'em up drama. These two women who are in a relationship, a committed relationship, and it's very raw. And I don't think a lot of people saw it, but I saw this film and I couldn't stop watching it because generally speaking, we're still in that stage where there's a couple of queer people in a film, so it sort of becomes like queer cinema, right? But
Mm-hmm.
this film was so transcended anything having to do with their sexual identity, their gender identity, that it was just wonderful to watch because it was just like, not that I needed, that I couldn't enjoy it as queer cinema because I certainly could have. I mean, I'm not queer, but I'm going to appreciate a good movie. I don't care about all that other stuff. But Love Lies Burning is a fantastic film. Especially if you really like a really taut psychological shoot 'em up action thriller where people are really in peril for the wrong reasons and survive for the right reasons, and recommend it very highly. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Well, I also was going to mention too, you mentioned 20, 30 years ago, the lead character in this film, Emilia Perez, probably would have been a straight woman playing a trans. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I
And
guess I
you
don't.
know what I mean? And
I
that's
get
happened.
it.
I mean, Tom
Well,
Hanks played a gay character in Philadelphia, and they would
yeah, but
do that in order to be. Well, let me. They would do
yeah,
that,
okay.
and then they'd be nominated for awards because, oh my God, they're playing this other, personality or whatever, and so that deserves it.
Yeah,
And that became kind of the in joke in Hollywood. I'll never forget Get Shorty. Great movie with John Travolta and Danny DeVito, where they were talking about Danny DeVito. Oh yeah, he got nominated because he was the gay paraplegic mountain climber. You know what I mean? Now you were great in that role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now it's society's changed enough that they can have a trans actor actually playing a trans person. I mean,
no, that's a good thing. It was a running joke, like you never go full retard. Remember that from Tropic Thunder?
Yeah,
Same thing. It's just like,
yeah.
What's her name? Joe. Oh, I can't think of her name. She did a film, Starting Over, with Burt Reynolds. She did this crying scene in the snow where there was snot running down her nose. Naturally. Yeah,
Jill Clayburgh.
Yeah. So she gets an Oscar, and during the scene, she's crying, and her tears are freezing, and snot's coming down her nose. And people are making jokes. Yeah, I got to get some snot working on my next film because people are always going to joke like that. But I think you're perfectly right to measure progress by the fact that we have a trans woman playing a trans person. But I think even more importantly that we even have that story at all, because it wouldn't have happened 30 years ago.
No,
right. And I don't think anybody minded Tom Hanks playing a victim dying of AIDS, but
it's just how society's changed. You know what I mean? It's just changed.
Yeah, yeah. So
anyway, I wanted to mention two things. Emilia Perez, it's streaming on Netflix. They're not featuring it. You basically have to search and it'll come up. Okay. And you can watch it, and it's there now. I just watched some of it again last night.
I think it's still in there. I think it's not in their top 10 anymore.
No, it's not, but it's there. Maybe now that it's starting to win awards, it'll pop up there again. But the other thing I wanted to mention to let people know, it is in Spanish and the subtitles are there in English. Okay. So I have a lot of friends who don't like to read subtitles, but trust me, it's worth it to read the subtitles to enjoy this film, because it's really well done.
It's not a film. It's not so super dialogue heavy that you're going to be stopping to read, hitting pause and that kind of stuff. So actually it's a very easy film to watch with subtitles.
And like I said earlier, I'm old enough now that I have to sometimes put them up even on the English films that I'm watching, because I can't understand what the heck they're saying.
I understand, Mark. I do understand.
I understand.
But it's maybe we could talk about some of the other films that we're not necessarily featuring, but I would like to shout out, because I thought they were fantastic films, and I'm sure we'll talk about them more as we get into the Oscars. We had the DGA Awards before the Oscars.
And also the SAG Awards.
Yeah, but they don't count. Sorry, the SAG Awards. I'm going to get so much shit for that. I mean, only 3% of the entire SAG membership is employed at any given time. I am going to get so much shit for that. I'm sorry to all my actor friends, because your health insurance is important, and producers have exploited you. But anyway, don't get me started on that. No, we have the DGA Awards, which is that's the real, what do you call it? That's the portent. That's the weather balloon. That's the,
for the Oscars.
For Best Director. I mean, I think in the entire history of the DGA Awards and the Oscars, only 3 times and I think it was 4 now, only 4 times did Best Director DGA not win the Best Director Oscar, which is weird because it's pretty much the same people voting. I vote on DGA. I don't vote on the Oscars because I'm not a member of the Academy. But and three times it was Steven Spielberg. I mean, they passed that guy over 3 times. 3 times the Directors Guild gave him Best Director, and then the Academy wouldn't give him an Oscar before they finally said, "Okay, fine, enough is enough. We'll give you an Oscar. You've proven yourself." But
isn't part of that reason because the Oscars is everybody can vote for everybody? Like, can actors vote for directors, or is it just directors?
No, it's just directors. It's the same.
Okay.
It's pretty much the same people. Everybody votes on Best Picture, but it's all done by branch. The branches vote internally for their own branch. So
okay, it's good to know. Anyway, I wanted to mention also the other winner for Best Drama was the film that we haven't covered it yet, but you've mentioned it before. The Brutalist won Best Director and also Golden Globe, and also Golden Globe for Best Drama. And I'm sure, as it becomes more available, I'll be able to watch it and we'll see it.
Yeah.
I understand it's 3.5 hours long with an intermission.
It's so worth it. It's so worth it. I called this one early. I think I called this one last November.
Yeah, you did.
And it's interesting. We have two films right now that are being celebrated: Emilia Perez and The Brutalist. And neither of these films should have ever seen the light of day. If you read by the numbers, they never should have seen the light of day. I mean, we have this incredible, outrageous musical that's taken from an opera that's about I'm not going to say an individual. It's about a family caught in the midst of the head of the family transitioning from male to female. Yeah. Okay. And it's kind of an opera about that.
When you say it wouldn't see the light of day, you meant that Hollywood would have normally not.
Yeah. They look at that. They go, no, that's like a little art house film. It's like whatever, it'll do fine at the festival circuit. And then we have this film about a mid-century architect that nobody's ever heard of. And I don't even remember. I had to do a triple take on Laszlo Toth. That's the name of the architect. My father was an architect, so I was brought up, so steeped in all this big corporate architecture stuff. And I thought I knew a lot about architecture, but I knew about brutalism. Laszlo Toth is the father of brutalism. But it's who wants to see a story about that? Let's just
what is brutalism? What is?
Well, you can look it up. Brutalism is it's a visual connotation, not a physical one. Right. It's very the buildings tend to look like fortresses. They tend to be very geometric. You could look up brutalist architecture and you would get a sense of it. But the film is amazing. We'll talk about it some other, but they shot it in a format called VistaVision, which has not been shot since the 60s. Which I have always said, if you ever hung out with me for more than an hour, you will hear me say, the best film format ever invented was VistaVision. So I was so thrilled to see a film shot in VistaVision, brilliantly shot. But the amazing thing about the film is if you just read maybe a Wikipedia article about what brutalist architecture is, you will see the production designer, the cinematographer, the composer, even the person who designed the titles decode the brutalist aesthetic for their particular art form so that everything in the film becomes integrated around that idea of brutalist architecture. And this is an amazing artistic achievement. And then on top of that, you have this performance, by what's his name? God,
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody, which is, people are going to be talking about this performance forever. It's just mind blowing. And then you have Guy Pearce. This is the best thing Guy Pearce has ever done since Memento. So it's a pretty remarkable film. And I'm really very satisfied that it's getting the kind of coverage it is, because I thought this is going to be one of those films. I mean, I can list a lot of them that, me and my, erudite film snob cineastas, saw, so we could, talk film theory and make ourselves feel important. But it's really well.
And Adrian Brody won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in the film.
Yeah, he's probably going to get he's probably going to get an Oscar.
Yeah,
and I think Guy Pearce as well may. I must say, talking about the Golden Globes, that what's his name? Culkin, Kieran Culkin.
Kieran Culkin,
yeah, winning that award for
A Real Pain. I haven't seen that. Another movie I haven't heard of.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing film. I watched it a few days ago.
That.
It is with that film, Jesse Eisenberg has staked his claim to being a great American filmmaker. I mean, I was so blown away. He wrote this film. He acts in it. He co-stars. It's kind of an ensemble piece. Mostly, it's kind of a back and forth between he and Kieran Culkin. It's so well written. I mean, this guy, it's this is probably does it a disservice, but it's kind of like, Woody Allen meets James L. Brooks meets, I'm trying to think.
Well, and that's always been my impression of Jesse Eisenberg. He's kind of like the current Woody Allen. I mean, he's just
yeah,
his
except with
whole nebbish sort of personality. You know what I
a
mean?
little bit, but without but without those and he's even a little self-effacing.
Yeah,
And he's like the nebbishy kind of neurotic Jewish kid,
yeah,
who's super smart. But guess what? He is, to me, in my book, with this film, he is one of America's great filmmakers right now, and
that's good.
I'm really looking forward to see what he does next, because everything that was lacking in a very different story, is not based on a true story, but like when you look at the writing in A Complete Unknown, like, there's none of those problems in this film. I mean, this film is mostly dialogue. You're going to sit there and you're going to, okay, so real quick, it's about, I'm not going to give it away, but I'm just going to tell you what you'd read in the thing. It's about a group of people going on a Holocaust tour back to Poland, where they're all Jews, a small group of Jews. One of them played by, what's her name? Gray. Shoot, my brain. Erin Gray. No, what is her name? The actress from Dirty Dancing.
Joe.
Joel Gray's daughter.
Joel Gray's daughter. I forget her name too.
Anyway, she's one
Jennifer
of the
Grey.
Jennifer Grey. We have this is like comeback here, I think, for older actresses. Jennifer Grey's absolutely fantastic. She's one of the group. So there's a small group of people, and they're traveling to Poland. And Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg are cousins. They grew up together. They're very close. They're like brothers. And their grandmother has just died. And their connection to Poland is their grandmother, who was originated in Poland. And they want to go back. They're on this tour, this Holocaust tour, going to Germany, or to Poland, rather. And then while they're there, they want to go spend a night in the house where their grandmother grew up. So it's just dialogue about, about people and their lives and what they're going through and how they feel about things. And it's just incredible. It's a meal. It's like not a confection. Like, it fills you full of feeling that you're not the only one that's experiencing certain things in life. So it really does a remarkable thing. And I really can't say enough about it.
What you're talking about reminds me of one of my favorite movie series of all time, and it's dialogue based, is the one that Richard Linklater did with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, After Midnight, Before Midnight. You know what I mean? They did it over like a 10-year period, and I love every single one of them. And it's just two people talking as they go walking around Vienna. It's just an amazing movie series. Anyway, one other thing too, another one of your Demi Moore won a Golden Globe for The Substance. I know you're really thrilled about The Substance, right?
Yeah, I couldn't stand it. Oh man, let me just be fair.
Yeah, she, like you said, older actress coming back. She was thrilled that she won.
Pamela Anderson,
she never won an award.
Yeah, I haven't watched The Last Showgirl, but I understand Pamela Anderson is amazing. Like, apparently she just finally decided to show up to the party as an actress, and it kind of doesn't matter when you show up, but eventually, if you show up, they'll give you some kudos for that. So I'm looking forward to seeing Pamela Anderson in that. Demi Moore is like a force of nature in this film. She is absolutely amazing, and Margaret Qualley, who co-stars with her, is absolutely amazing. The film, oh man, I actually had some material. We'll do it another time, but
But I just want to mention that you mentioned older actresses. Yeah, Demi Moore.
The film, like, if you like monster movies and you like looking at naked women, you will love this film. Okay, absolutely. It's
called The Substance.
Yeah,
The Substance.
My kind of like, I came to this, like, the film, the buzz on the film is like, oh, this is this great statement on the patriarchal standard of beauty that's forced down every little girl's throat, and how toxic and disgusting it is. Right. I thought, okay, cool, I want to see that, but I didn't really get that as a takeaway. I mean, I really got that they have this idea of worshiping youth and worshiping this false standard of beauty that's unattainable. They kind of co-opted that to kind of give some legitimacy to their monster film. And the film is shot in a highly stylized way. It kind of reminded me of something maybe Tony Scott would do, who was probably Hollywood's greatest cinematic stylist. of the last 50 years, but it's highly styled. And I was going to I could do a little presentation and trace back where the styling kind of comes from. It's very much a kind of it's sort of postmodern surrealism. I mean, I don't know really how to categorize it, but it's very, very sparsely composed, very big elements like patterns and primary colors and lots of pastel colors, a lot of very, what would you call it? Kinetic editing. So it's really interesting to watch, but the whole thing, it just flies off the rails. At the end, I was just like, luck, you got to be kidding.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I don't want to kill it for you.
If it's got a great performance in it, and it's got naked bodies in it, I'm in. We'll see what.
Yeah, happens. No, and they don't do it gratuitously. It's actually very the nudity in the film, I thought, really legitimately supported the story. So. So yeah, that was cool. But there's an interesting phenomenon with horror films. If you look at, I've never fully researched this, but if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, you'll see a disproportionate number of horror films. And when I say horror films, I'm talking about what we refer to as splatter porn, which is just like Saw, and there's dismemberment.
Yeah. No,
grotesque. Yeah, well, this has a little bit of that. Okay, you're going to get a little bit of that because it is really going to do well as a monster film, but you'll see a disproportionate number of these films are in the 90 to 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think it's the cult aspect. I don't mean cult like Scientology. I mean cult film, that there's a cult following of monster films, and if you provide a certain kind of story with certain kinds of visuals, that little cult following, they go to Rotten Tomatoes and they vote everything in the 90s. So you've got all of these.
No, 90s is good. 90s is high.
No, I'm saying 90%. Oh, rarely does a film make it into 90.
No, in other words, that's good. Meaning 90% liked it rather than.
Oh yeah, but it's 90% of the 10 people who or whatever. I don't know what it is, but people who like horror films, they vote these kinds of films up way, way, way high. Because I watch some of these films, I'm like, that's not 100%. Like I've saw some of these horror films, they get like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. So I'm sure this one will do fine in that respect.
Well, I wanted to tell everybody, we're at the end of the show here. Please subscribe to our channel. This is on Las Vegas Travel and More, and also on Mitch's channel, Scientology, The Big Lie. Hit that subscribe button, that like button, and notification button. It definitely helps us. Again, we like your questions. We want your comments. We want your suggestions. So go down in the comment and suggestion. We read them all, and we try to respond to them. So please do let us know. What do you think of Emilia Perez? What did you think of the Golden Globes? Suggestions for movies for us to review. We really would appreciate that. If you want to support the channel, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link down in the description where you can click on it and help support the channel. And of course, if you want to buy Mitch's book, Scientology, The Big Lie, Mitch, they can go to your website, and also it's available on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, you can get it from Amazon. You can online. You can order from Barnes & Noble. You can go into pretty much any bookstore and you won't find it, but you can ask them to order it, and it is in their system. And I've often asked people, like, if you're walking by a bookstore, go in and ask for it, because the more people that ask for it, they'll stock it. And because the bookstores don't buy from Amazon, so that my book is also published from resources that supply bookstores. So
yeah, and I want to just, again, plug the book. I mean, it's the most current information about what had been going on in Scientology and David Miscavige is Mitch's book, okay? Because we have not had any defectors or people leave since then that were so closely tied. And it goes into detail, and it's fantastic story, fantastic information from Mitch. He goes into all sorts of things. It's a great read. I highly recommend the book.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, it's there's a lot of tea in that book.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. Well, that's this show for this week. We'll see you again next week, but we appreciate everybody watching. Okay. Well, until next time, everybody. Bye-bye.